Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, and today we're focusing on that flare up of violence in Spanish Town. And areas in Spanish Town resembled a ghost town when nationwide reporters visited the old capital early on Thursday. This following a flare up of violence following the fatal shooting of Othneil Lobban, the leader of the One Order gang, on Wednesday night. The St. Catherine South police are reporting that Lobban, otherwise called Tickman, was among the five prime targets under the initiative being pursued by the National Joint Anti-Gang Task Force to rid the country of organized criminal groups.
Now, listeners, gunmen and supporters of Loban attacked public buildings and private businesses in retaliation. Roadblocks were mounted at several points in the old capital, including on Young Street, while the train gate in the vicinity of William Street was drawn across the road, blocking vehicular traffic. A fire damaged the exterior of the courts building. And our news center received audio of what sounded like a barrage of gunshots on St. John's Road in Homestead and sections of Tawes Pen. Now, Lobban is from the Tawes Pen community, and that sits across the road from Ellerslie Pen, the location for a shootout between gunmen and the police on Wednesday.
Well, both the JCF and JDF have a strong presence throughout Spanish Town as they seek to purge the streets of those intent on challenging state agents and disrupting order. A curfew is now in effect for the communities of Ellerslie Pen and Tawes Pen, and the curfew will remain until 6 p.m. on Friday, January 24.
The boundaries of that curfew include the Spanish Town Bypass, William Street, French Street, and Oxford Road. And of course, persons within the boundaries are required to remain within their premises unless authorized by the commander. Joining us now to discuss further, we have the president of the St. Catherine Chamber of Commerce, Dennis Robotham, and the commanding officer for the St. Catherine North Police Division, Superintendent Hopton Nicholson. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, SSP.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Robotham.
Superintendent, let me start with you. Good afternoon. What's the latest in terms of the security situation in Spanish Town?
Well, at this moment, it appears quite calm in the Spanish Town area. The curfew is in place in the Tawes Pen communities at this time. All the roadblocks were cleared by the security forces, and we have been maintaining a strong presence all day, and it will continue to into the night as well. But at the moment, the tension is not as high as it was early this morning, and we see not the usual, but vehicles and persons going about. Going to and from. Less persons in and around the Towers Meadows area, but persons are traversing the space. But the security forces are out in their numbers.
Mm-hmm. And has the situation stabilized to the point where you believe you can drop the threat level against the security forces? We understand it was raised to extreme.
No, we're not going to drop the level against the security forces, but I can tell you the tension is not as high with the general populace in the area at this time.
Mm-hmm. And Dennis Robotham, from where you sit as president of the St. Catherine Chamber of Commerce, what's the feeling like among business interests in the area?
Well, as you all know, it's like a recurring decimal. I think last year, we were on the program dealing with a similar matter. And whenever this happens, it creates havoc on the business sector. We have to close and then restarting and getting back to some semblance of normalcy. Takes up to 2 to 3 weeks for people to get in the groove and start moving again. Hence, the bottom line is really affected seriously. Economically, we have lost quite a whole lot of time, money, effort, everything. Today in particular is a Thursday. It's a delivery day, and the logistics of delivery from major distributors usually come on a Thursday, to prepare for Friday and Saturday, and all of that is now in a chaotic situation that is going to create another problem on Friday, which is usually smooth sailing. These things really create a problem, and it has become such a sore in our society. I think the whole problem, and kudos to SSP and his team and the entire JDF and JCF has been doing a tremendous job. We see the trajectory going down, violent crimes, and I continue to speak to SSP on numerous occasions, and we have dialogue on a very regular basis. But this continues to raise its ugly head, and we look at when there's going to be a time where we can say we used to talk about what used to happen. It is about time we see some real inroads, which I think is being done now. In this era, we see some efforts, both in strategic planning and that sort of thing, moving the efforts to cauterize the situation as it is. I mean, schools were closed, all commercial activities were suspended. The transportation sector was in chaos. It is something that we have to look at in the long term. Spanish Town and St. Catherine could be so way ahead if it wasn't for crime. I mean, we are booming at this particular time. You imagine that a lot of companies and big corporate entities are coming into the space. Recently, we have Popeyes and Little Caesars coming into the space. You imagine if we had that crime situation under control. I would describe it, we have euphoric possibilities if a number of things are taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Superintendent, obviously a part of that
Look like
is...
you want me to continue.
No.
I was just giving you time to
No. Superintendent, obviously part of that is the mental security, that people feel, that they feel.
Hello?
Mr. Robotham? He doesn't see me, he's hearing us, Superintendent? Superintendent Nicholson? No, all right.
Seems
So
like we've lost him
not
too.
hearing the Mr. Robotham, can you hear us? No. All right. So we're talking to President of the St. Catherine Chamber of Commerce, Dennis Robotham, and the Commanding Officer of the St. Catherine North Police, Superintendent Hopton Nicholson, getting a situation, a feel of the situation in Spanish Town following the flare-up of violence across the old capital. Mm-hmm. This stemming from the police killing of Othneil Lobban, otherwise called Tickman. He's the reputed leader of the One Order gang. One of the things I wanted to pose to the superintendent, Sanjay, he says that, he believes that, the situation has, is brought under control. And based on what Mr. Robotham was explaining to us, obviously there's still that need for mental security. He says oftentimes when this happens, it takes up to 2 to 3 weeks for things to return to, full normalcy. And so I was asking the superintendent if he can give the assurance to the residents of Spanish Town, those who live and work in Spanish Town, that the security forces do in fact have it under control and that they can get on with their business, get on with commute and what they need to do in the old capital. I understand this morning, for example, court was also interrupted. The Jambar advising lawyers, not to venture into Spanish Town. So it really did cause significant disruptions today.
Yeah. And, I've spoken to Dennis a number of times, Ricardo, on the same matter regarding the flare-up of violence in Spanish Town. And it's something that he has always said, that there's so many opportunities that exist in Spanish Town only if they can get that the flare-up and the violence that is happening under control. And it's very hard for business interests and also individuals who live in the general area, the fear of not knowing when there will be another flare-up in the community.
Yeah. All right. So Superintendent Hopton Nicholson is back with us. Superintendent?
Yes, sir.
Right. Good. Right. Thank you. So what I was posing to you before we lost contact. You said that you think your lawmen have the situation under control now, and Mr. Robotham was outlining that usually when these things happen, sometimes it takes up to 3 weeks for that sense of security to return to residents. Can you give them the assurance, residents of the old capital, that your lawmen are in fact in control and they can freely go about their business starting this afternoon into tomorrow?
Yes, but also I would just like to point out that there's a lot of misinformation
Yes.
out there, and we suggest that persons use the legitimate medium, such as the JCF web page and the releases that are issued by the JCF High Command, especially those from the CCU, and follow mainstream. The mainstream media normally have more accurate information than some of the vloggers or some of the unverified social media posts. So some of the social media posts are causing unnecessary tension in this space. So we just want persons to follow the legitimate, or should I say, the verified information that are placed out there. And secondly, there are, I don't know to what end is benefiting some persons. Some persons have exaggerated some of what is happening. For example, a single road is blocked to hear that the entire area is blocked, and so forth. So persons have multiplied the information in such a way that it is causing unnecessary panic. So we are going to be strategic in communicating via CCU, via CCN, to let the public know what is happening. And if there's an area of tension, we'll also highlight it.
Yes.
We want persons to understand that we are there. A little inconvenience now and again for checks and balance, where the police and the military are there. So you'll see us all over both day and night. So do not mind a little inconvenience, just to double check, especially persons going through, whether you're walking or you're driving through the town. So it is more of a perception than the reality, because the truth be told, some of the things that used to happen some time ago is no longer happening. Our members are well trained, very equipped, and we are dedicated. And we know that some issues will come up, but our response is very professional, very strategic, and we are going to be there so that persons can return to their normal lives as soon as practicable.
Superintendent, are you finding that the kind of mischief you just described on social media, vloggers, bloggers, is that complicating your efforts in any way?
It does, because there are some persons who do not search for verified information. They just take what they get or what they see or what is forwarded to their phone and run with it. So it causes unnecessary panic, and then we have to do a lot of damage control in trying to reassure the public. But the truth be told, the era is almost at normalcy, just a little bit, a tension there. And also there are some members of the media who, the way they presented something, for example, there's a threat level against police, and some persons are putting out that there is a threat against Spanish Town, or a threat against the people of Spanish Town. So that can cause unnecessary panic as well. So just want persons to understand the difference between threat against police versus high tension, increased tension, or threat against the lives of the ordinary citizens there.
But Superintendent, isn't it reasonable though that people would, if the threat against the police is at extreme, that civilians should also be very careful and worried about that?
Yes, but I understand, but we want persons to understand that there is a difference. There can be ripple effects, but we are talking about a trained person versus the ordinary person. And the police officers, they are going out there in their numbers. We are taking no chances, and we are equipped for the most part. So we want that, and we want persons to understand that people really want to attack members of the state. You understand? So persons understand. So when we stop and we check and we do our strategic deployment and carry our operation, people understand that the state, we are there to protect not just our own interests, but the interests of everyone, because we want our members have to be safe so we can protect the members of the public. And I can tell you, order has already been restored for the most part and will continue because we are not going to leave.
Mm-hmm. And Dennis Robotham, I gather you're back with us. You've
Yes.
heard the commanding officer, and I'm sure you're in dialogue with your members. Are you confident that the police have this under control, and you're satisfied with the information coming from the police?
Well, definitely. We have a good rapport with the High Command, and we have dialogue at all times. Whenever there's this situation, we will communicate so we understand, and we can make judgment based on our dialogue with the police. So there is not a problem where that is concerned. But nonetheless, it affects the business sector regardless of what we say, because of how they feel. They feel threatened. There is a heightened sense of, security risk to come into this space. And as SSP rightly said, sometimes the media really give us a bad plug to look as if it is so bad. And sometimes there's no problem in technical terms that is there. But the fact is, when we look at what is causing us in the business community, the loss of revenue, and as I was saying before, I don't know if you heard when we got cut off, that the repercussions continue to happen. And it takes quite a while to get back in stride because the public has got to feel secured, and it takes sometimes 2 to 3 weeks before we see a full recovery of businesses and people, enjoying the space or feel comfortable to come in the space.
Yeah. And so I just want to ask, Superintendent, this Lobban fellow, was he the only one that your men were after?
Well, actually, it is the National Anti-Gang Task Force, not necessarily. That's from the headquarters level, and there are a number of gangsters across the country that they're after. So it is not necessarily a St. Catherine North. It's a National Anti-Gang Task Force.
And as far as you are aware, are there any other gangsters in your division that are on the...
Quite possible. Yeah. Quite possible they are high on the radar. And from time to time we put out some names. Some of them we will be dealing with from our divisional level, but some of them are high on the agenda so that the High Command has a team that is actually spearheading the operational thrust going after them in that regard, sir.
So your division wouldn't have been involved in the operation in 6 months?
Not that one, not last night. No, sir.
Mm. Okay. All right. Superintendent, thank you so much for your time. Thank you as well, Dennis Robotham, President of the Chamber of Commerce. Superintendent Hopton Nicholson is the commanding officer of the St. Catherine North Police. Thank you, gentlemen. The word from the superintendent, his lawmen have the situation under control, and he's advising residents to remain calm and urging those online not to spread mischief, as that's complicating the efforts in the old capital.